Hey, welcome to episode number 13 in the Paul Nichols podcast show. Today, we're going to be covering building an online business versus making money. Now, on the surface, this might not make much sense to you, but bear with me. We're going to dive in and I'm going to explain exactly what this means and why this is very important for you to understand and for you to know exactly how this works and how this is going to affect you in your own online journey. So let's dive in. So building an online business versus making money. This is very important. I see a lot of different people going down the wrong path when they come to the internet and they try and build some type of an online business. And building an online business is, of course, what I do. Is very, very profitable. It's a very, very good way to build a business. Of course, it takes some work, the same as anything. It's not going to be something that you can build overnight. But it's a really good way to free up a lot of your time because you use the internet, you use software, you use tools to automate lots of parts of your business. Versus making money. Making money is, of course, part of an online business. But there's actually two different ways that you can generate sales and revenue on the internet. Two completely different business models. So this is exactly what we're going to go through. Now, a lot of people will tell you, including myself, that building an online business is the best way to do things. And it is. Generally, it is for most people. However, when you first come to the internet, now I don't know how much experience you have. You might have been online for a number of years, a number of months, a number of hours. But whatever you decide to do, you have to know the difference between these two different business models because you might actually be more interested in just making a little bit of money as opposed to building a business. On the other hand, you might have been doing this stuff for a long time. You've been online for a fairly long time. You know, you've made some money. You've generated a lot of different results. You've had clients, you've had customers. So for you, that might be a case of you actually want to build a real business. So what we're going to do is go through both of these so you could actually figure out which one you want to use in your particular situation. There's pros and cons for both of them, but if you're trying to build something for the future and you want something to flourish over time, of course, an online business is, is the actual way to do it. That is the best way to spend your time on the internet. But when you first come to the internet and you don't really know how things work and you just want to see some results and maybe you want to see a proof of concept, you actually want to know that the time that you put into this stuff, all of this internet stuff actually works, then making money is going to be the best method for you. You might be wondering what I did when I first come to the internet. Well, I actually focused on this. Yeah, that is what most people do because there's a big difference in the way that you make money with general methods and also in a business. So I'm just going to lay out a few home truths because this is something that you probably don't know. And if you do, I'm just going to go over this stuff right here, right now, so that you know exactly what to do moving forward. So all of this is now crystal clear for you moving forward, so you know exactly what you need to work on. So an online business. An online business is going to be something that will flourish over time. It's not going to happen overnight, but you have the ability to generate, a lot of sales, a lot of money in your business. You get to build email lists and you get to automate the entire process so that you don't have to be at your desk 24 hours a day in order for your business to grow and in order for you to make some good money. And that's the whole point of the internet. Software, tools and automation. It is a really powerful thing. But you won't necessarily be at the stage of building a business until you have a little bit of experience. And this is the thing. This is the situation a lot of people get stuck in. So making money versus an online business. An online business, as I said, is the best way to do things. But with an online business, you're going to need a sales page. You're going to be building email lists. You're going to need products. You're going to need customers that you can build. You're going to know how to do email marketing, how to create websites, possibly a membership site. You don't have to know how to build a membership site, but you're definitely going to need to know how to create a product, how to brand yourself, how to create content, how to make videos, how to do all of these different things, which is what you do need to know if you want to run a proper professional online business. Versus if you just want to make money, then you can literally just focus on making money. Now, you might think on the surface of it, you might think, well, Paul, this seems really easy. Why would I want to build a proper business when I can just make money? Well, making money is going to be, I would say, the best description would be making money would be just like having a job. You are trading your time for money most of the time. Most of the time. So some examples might be, you might write articles for people. You could be in charge of someone's social media platform, Facebook and YouTube. So you could go in there and work on their channels and do work for them. You might do some admin work for someone. So someone might pay you on a monthly basis to just do some work for them, to just maybe get back to customers, be in charge of the email support. Another one could be you might charge money for making graphics and images and pictures. So you might have an account on someone like Fiverr where people pay you to create images for them. There's all different gigs that you can supply when it comes to just making money. But this is a case of you're just making money to pay the bills, and this is more of a proof of concept. You at this stage, and this is what I went through many years ago, the methods that I focused on were not building a business. They were making money methods. There's hundreds of different make money methods out there. It just depends on what you like to do. As I just said, those few examples, you could be in charge of someone's social media platforms, you could write articles, you could have some gigs where you create images and pictures and graphics. You might be good at editing videos. So you might be in charge of someone's YouTube channel. So every time they make a video, you edit the video and play around the colors. So that's literally you just making some money. But you're still working on the internet. This is still work on the internet and you're making money. However, this is just making money. This is not building a real business. I mean, you could do both. Yes, admittedly, you could do both. You could be making money, writing articles and doing all this stuff, as well as building your own online business in the background. And yes, that is a great idea. You could do that. But most people will work on the make money tasks for a while until they get enough experience, and then they will decide to actually build a real business. Now, I don't know if you've already thought about this before. Perhaps you have. Perhaps you were working on make money tasks and you didn't even realize it, and now you do. Whichever the case, these are the two different areas that people work on. There's lots of people right now on the internet that fall into these two categories. In fact, just about every single person on the internet that wants to make money is doing one of these two things. They're either building a business or they're just making money. So when you build a real business, this is, of course, it takes more time, it takes more effort. So that's why you could be doing that at the same time as just making money in your business. It just depends on your experience, your skill set, what you know, and also what you don't know. Because you don't know what you don't know. when you start to learn some methods to just make a bit of money, some people will just go 100% into that and just make as much as they can, and that's fine. Because when you first come to the internet and when you first start to get involved in online business, you just don't know what to do. And I will be honest, there's a lot of information out there. Back when I came to the internet in 2008, it was very difficult to actually figure out what to do and which direction to go in. So I totally get it. There's a lot of information out there. And I will be honest, I reckon that's even worse now. I think that's even worse now. I would also say that it has never been easier, but it's also never been as hard because there's so many more distractions now. So back when I started in 2008, there were a lot of distractions, but there were nowhere near as many as there is now. There's more people on the internet now. There's more social media platforms. There's more videos flying around. You've got all of these different video platforms and different social media platforms. So you're told to do one thing and then you get pulled in a different direction and then back in that direction and then this and then that. So I totally get it. But an online business versus making money, this is something that you seriously need to decide on. You need to be aware that these are not the same. Of course, in your online business, you do make money and you make sales. Of course you do, and you generate profits. But there are some things that you can do on the internet which will be a case of you're just making money. That is your number one priority. Is you're just making sales in your, well, it's not even going to be in your business. It's just going to be online. You're making sales and you're making money into your accounts, but you're not actually building anything for the future. But the good news is, at some point, you will want to transition into building a real business, because this is exactly what I did. I'll give you a quick example of what I did, and by no means am I saying to you go out there and do the same as me. This is just what I did. And I have mentioned this before in a previous episode that we've done on here. I started in niche sites. So I built small websites where I made money. This wasn't a business. I made money by recommending Amazon products. And then visitors went from my website over to Amazon. If they purchased, I then got a small commission for that. And that was how I made money for a number of years. This was a good couple of years. And this was just one element of how I was making money back in the day. There was a few other little things that I did as well. But this was my main earner. But that wasn't a business. This was not a business. So if you are building websites like this, where you're relying on completely free traffic from Google to send to your websites, and you think you have a business, you actually, you don't. That's a great way to make money and a great income stream, but you do need to make sure that your income is a lot more protected and your business is a lot more stable, because it's not a business. You're basically relying on free traffic from Google, and if Google decides to turn your traffic off, or if they do an algorithm update and your traffic drops, then your income drops. So that's another thing to bear in mind. And I realized that after a while. Now, luckily, I wasn't really affected, but that's not to say that you shouldn't be thinking about moving forward. So this is what I did. I built these sites, little money. I mean, you can call them lots of different names. Some people call them money sites, niche sites, money blogs, websites, whatever you want to call them. But these were sort of like 3 to 25 page blogs that I made, and this was back in 2008 to about 2011 I did this, and that was purely just to make some money on the internet. I wasn't building a business. So what are you doing right now in your online efforts? What are you working on? So the next time you go and work on anything that it is that you're working on, just think about what it is that you're actually doing to make money or trying to make money. The chances are, if you haven't been online for very long, you will fall into this category. And that's fine. That is absolutely fine. You do have to go through a little bit of a process before you start to actually gain the knowledge and experience where you can actually build a business. This is not something that you can do overnight. I'll be honest with you. It's just not. Because there's skills, there's experience, things you need to know how to do. So initially, you will just be making some money. As I said, you could be writing articles. There's a range of different things you could do. There's tons and tons of stuff. I mean, you could even set up a YouTube channel and create some type of a YouTube channel. I don't class that as a business on its own. It's a means to it's a means to an end. It's going to allow you to drive traffic and brand your business if you've got some type of a brand that you're trying to grow. But YouTube is just a search engine. It isn't an actual business. So you could use YouTube for now, create a YouTube channel. You could have a Facebook page where you have some type of presence on there. Again, that's not a business. That is just a way to get traffic and to make sales and make some money. That isn't an actual business, because your business actually works in the background. All of these different platforms that you end up using are just tools that you use to drive visitors to your own website, to your own brands, yeah? And that is how it works. A lot of these platforms, you don't actually use them individually to build a business on. You just don't. If you look at most people online, anyone that builds, that's got a really good business or are building a really good business, you'll see that they have all of their important stuff in the background. It's not where you're actually watching their content. That's just a content platform. So when it comes to making money versus an online business, next time you log on, next time you start playing around with your online blogs or websites, just have a little bit of a think. Are you actively building an online business? Are you building email lists, creating products, creating content to drive to your opt-in page, to your landing page? Or are you just using a particular strategy or method to just make some money? And that's fine. It is absolutely fine. But what you do need to do is make sure that you have the clear intention of at some point transitioning to building an online business. Yeah, there is a little bit of a process to go through, because if you've just come to the internet because your friend told you that he's got an online business and he's doing really well, so you thought you would come to the internet and try it and see what it's all about, you're not going to know how to build a business, because you're going to be inexperienced generally, and you're just not going to know anything about how the internet really works, because it's a whole different place than it is the offline world. So when you come from a job and you come onto the internet, they work completely different. There's so much more to learn. There's so much stuff that goes on the internet, and you have to just understand and learn how it works, the same as anything. But when you first get involved, you will quickly realize that there's lots of ways to just make some money. And this is what a lot of people teach you, because I would say it's a lot more appealing. If someone says to you, use this method and you can make X amount, or you could see these results in XYZ time, it does appeal to a lot of people. It does. I'm going to be honest. If someone says to you, I'm now going to teach you how to build an online business, I'm going to teach you how to build websites and email marketing and all of that, that doesn't sound quite so interesting, does it? It just doesn't. So this is the trap that a lot of people fall into, is that they start learning how to make money by using certain methods and techniques, but the bigger picture is an actual business, and you still make money in your business. It's just that it's the way that people use the words to describe these two different business models is that making money in just using different certain strategies and methods and techniques is one thing, but then at some point in the future you will want to transition, as I said earlier, into building an actual online business, because that is a lot more stable, it's more sustainable, it's more airtight, and this is something that will flourish in time and you can grow something for the future. Whereas when you're just focused on this is just short time profits, and these are things that could work just for a short time, or you might just be trading your time for money, the same as you would be in a job. And the whole reason why people come to the internet is that it's not always necessarily easier. It's only easier when you tap into the automation side of things, because it's only when you automate things that's when things get easier. So something to think about, something for you to take very, very seriously. So depending what stage you're at, whether you're actually building your online business right now or just making money, don't worry if you're just at this stage of making money and you're just focused on ways to pull in some extra revenue, and you want a little bit of proof of concept and you want to prove to yourself that this online stuff actually works before you then progress and start investing more in your knowledge and tools. I get that, I do, but at some point make sure that you do actively start to build a real online business. It might take you a couple of years, it might take you 10 years, it might take you a couple of years, but this is where you want to be at some point in the future. You just have to decide when that time is best suited for you and your particular situation. Now, the difference between an online business and just making money, as I've just explained, is huge. There's lots of different things that you need to do, but it's not that difficult when you're shown how to do it. I actually will show you how to do this in my 7-day bootcamp. So if you go to coffeeshopincome.com/bootcamp, that's coffeeshopincome.com/bootcamp, I'll show you how to set up your entire business from scratch. So from selecting a niche, a market, going through selecting business models, where to get traffic from, how to make sales in your business, how to set your sites up, how to do everything else and everything else in between that. There are obviously skills that you need to learn, but if you go to coffeeshopincome.com/bootcamp, I will give you a 7-day free bootcamp where I give you 7 tutorial videos over that 7 days, teaching you lots of vital and crucial skills that you definitely need to learn if you're serious about really making this online thing work for you. Because if you're not shown how to do it correctly, you could do what I did for many, many years, and I was spinning my wheels and just wasting a lot of time for many, many years. It wasn't until I implemented certain things that it all clicked for me. And that's exactly what I'm going to show you in my bootcamp. So you can go over there, grab that for completely free. If you're watching this on video, the link will be below the video. Otherwise, just go to coffeeshopincome.com/bootcamp. So I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. This is something that may sound simple on the surface, but it's also something that you need to make sure that you're aware of, because I guarantee you are doing one of these two things. You're either actively trying to make money or you're actively building a business. Now, you might be doing both, and if that's the case, that's fine. I'm going to let you into a little secret. I'm actually still doing both myself. Okay, I started on making money in 2008. I then started to build my business, a real business, in 2013. And then since 2013, I've been growing my business and my websites. And then also at the same time, I often come across different strategies that I can use to generate more revenue and sales online. And these are not necessarily going to be like actual businesses that I work on. These are just income streams. And that's the best part, is that you get to work on all of these different things that you come across, but you're only really going to get to be able to do that once you have a business. You can do this at the start just to pull in some extra revenue, but once you do have a business, it does start to get a lot more fun, because then trying all these different strategies and different methods out for generating new income streams just becomes a lot more fun, because you already have a business in place. And that's the key thing to remember. So hope you enjoyed today's episode. See you in the next one. Take care.